So hello everyone, welcome to this channel Learn and Win. So first of all I want to give a brief introduction about this channel. So we created this channel to share our knowledge in different technical skills. So whatever we know we are going to post in this YouTube channel. So please do share and subscribe this channel and do like the videos if you really like the concept that we are explaining. So let's get into the video. So you have already seen the thumbnail, that is all about MongoDB. So we decided to create a series of MongoDB videos. This is the first video in which you are going to cover what is relational database, what is non-relational databases, and why we are moving to non-relational databases in some particular cases. So first of all, what do you mean by a database? So let us imagine that we are creating an Amazon app. So it must include user information like username, user ID, user email, so like this. And also it includes product and order details like product ID, product price, so etc. So if there are a less amount of data, we can able to store it somewhere like in a book or in a paper. But if it is a large amount of data, we have to use something bigger than the book or a paper. That means we have to store all these large amount of data somewhere. So here come the concept of databases. So database is used to store the data and it organizes the information, so we can retrieve the data from the database and also we can update or delete the data from the database. So there are two types of databases. One is relational database and other is the non-relational databases. So the MongoDB is the non-relational database. So throughout this video we are going to consider an example of student system. So the student system contains a basic information about the student like his name or age and the courses in which he is enrolled and also the hobbies or the interests the student have. So next, what do you mean by a relational databases? So a relational database means it stores data in table format. So we all know table contains rows and columns. So all the data will be stored in rows and columns. And the data is structured and fixed. That means the schema is already fixed. So in order to store the data, so before storing the data, you have to fix the schema. So why we are calling it as relational means the tables are connected with each other. That means they are related to each other. How we are relating the data with each other means we are using keys like primary key or the foreign key. So by using these keys we are going to relate the two tables. And in order to retrieve the combined data, we are going to use the join queries. And one of the major problem with these SQL databases is, so let us explain with this an example. So I have a table of two tables with student table and courses table. The student table contains student ID, name and age, whereas courses table contain course ID and course name. So I want to add a hobby. I want to add a column hobby to the student ID 1. I don't want to add to any one of the row in the table. But if I want to add hobby, I want to change the schema of the student table. So I want to alter the table. So now it will become student ID, name, age and hobby. But I don't want to fill any value for other rows in the table. I only want to put hobby as painting to student ID 1. I don't want for any other row. So but here the hobbies column is added to every other row in the table. So the major problems with SQL databases are it has the fixed schema. That means it contains the fixed columns. So if you don't want or not, but it should be there. For example, in the previous example for the student ID 2, I don't want any hobby, but the column should be present in this record. And if you want to store the values, the schema should be defined earlier. After defining the schema only, we are going to store the values. And then here the data is split into multiple tables. So we already know that in order if here I want the student ID 1 in which he is enrolled, in which course he is enrolled. So I use student ID as the primary key and the foreign key, and I will relate these two tables, and I will get the student ID 1 is enrolled in math and 2 is enrolled in science. So I will get this data by combining these two tables, and I will get another table. That means the data is split into multiple tables and related to each other by using the keys. So here we are having multiple tables. That means to write join query we have to include the table 1 data, table 2 data, so it would be very complex. So we will enter in the concept of non-relational databases. So in non-relational database, so it is also called as NoSQL, and the name suggests that NoSQL, that means there are no tables. That means the data is not going to be stored in table format. It is going to be stored in other formats other than the table. So other format means a document format or key value pairs or graphs, so etc. Like these formats the data is going to be stored. So we will going to check one example of MongoDB. So in MongoDB the data is going to be stored in a document format, which is JSON format. JSON format is nothing but a dictionary in programming. Like it will store the data in a form of key and value pair. So here student ID is the key and the value is 1. So name and the value, age and the value, courses he has enrolled, hobby, so all this. So when I say non-relational means the first statement comes to our mind is that there is no relation between the data. So that is wrong. So I want you to remember that non-relational does not mean there are no relationships at all. So it is something like relationships are not managed using tables and foreign keys. So data is often embedded together. So here you can see in SQL, if I want the course in which the student enrolled, I want to combine these two tables. I want to use the foreign key, I want to use the join query. So then I will get the course in which the student has enrolled. But here I have embedded the data inside one document only. So you can see here the courses the student 1 has enrolled is math and science. So this data is embedded in one document only. And other thing is, if I want to add hobby to the first person in SQL, I want to add the hobby column to each row in the table, but here I don't want to add to anyone, only I want to add to the first person. So I added directly in the hobby painting. So the terminology is same. That means a database can store the data, but SQL it is in different format, in NoSQL it is another format. So I want you to remember that. So you all know that in SQL the data is going to be stored in a table format, right? But in NoSQL like MongoDB, it is going to be stored in document. So a document is nothing but a row in a table, and a collection is nothing but a table in the SQL, and a field is nothing but a column in the SQL. So for example, here this is the document, right? So it is like a row in a table, and a collection of all these documents, like collection of all rows is table, right? So here collection of all documents is nothing but a collection, like a table in the SQL. So in SQL it is table, in MongoDB it is collection. In SQL it is row, in MongoDB it is document. In SQL it is column, in MongoDB it is field. So the major differences between SQL and NoSQL are the SQL stores the data in table format, that is, it is going to store the data in rows and columns, whereas in NoSQL it is uses other formats like document, key value pairs, graphs, etc. And in relational databases or SQL databases, the tables are connected with each other. So in order to connect these tables, we are going to use keys, and in order to get the combined data, we are using join query, and it has a fixed schema. That means we have to define columns before storing the data, and all the rows follow the same structure, whether the rows need the column or not, but it can contain the column. When it comes to NoSQL, it have different records for different fields. Different records contain different fields. So no need of multiple tables, no need to relay it. We will directly embed the data in one document. It does not rely on table-based relationships like in SQL. So one thing I want to say is, like, SQL is like a form where everyone must fill the same fields. When it comes to MongoDB, it is like a notebook where different details for different persons. So SQL has a fixed schema and NoSQL has flexible schema. That means can change structure anytime. But in SQL we must define the structure before inserting the data. When coming to the scalability, it scales vertically. When it comes to NoSQL, it scales horizontally. That means scaling vertically means to handle more data or users, we upgrade the same server. We don't add any servers, we upgrade the same server that we are using. That means we are going to add more memory or faster CPU or bigger storage. We will change the same server, we will upgrade the same server. This is called vertical scaling. When it comes to horizontal scaling, we can add, instead of upgrading the server, we can add more servers. So let me explain this with an example. So if imagine we have a laptop which is handling our database. So if more user comes, we will going to upgrade that. So 8 GB RAM to 32 GB RAM. This is vertical scaling. In horizontal scaling, so instead of using one computer, we will use 2-3 more computers that work together. So MongoDB can handle more data by handling more machines instead of upgrading the single machine. So when to use SQL? So SQL has a structured base schema. So it is very best for banking systems or transactions, but it is very hard to scale. When it comes to NoSQL, it is flexible. So it is very better for social media apps or any large apps because it handles huge traffic easily because it is scaling horizontally.